Texans head coach DeMeco Ryans is obsessed with one specific word. How close is his team to putting it into action? We'll take a late look at everything that went down in week 14 of this NFL season and this massive American group. They just don't get it. I'm Paul Gallant. This is the Gallant Says podcast for Tuesday, December 9th, 2025. Hit it. Get it on.
A radio show host in Seattle called Paul Gallant.
Paul Gallant's wondering the same things a lot of people are.
You are definitely living in the hindsight world today, Paul.
Do you feel there's been a consistent theme with the interceptions?
I think every interception really has a different story.
I was just kind of curious what Paul gets to say.
You got f***ing grow up, mother. Are you kidding me?
Paul Gallant, what the hell is wrong with you?
Oi!
Oi! Oi! Oi!
Zigzag, zigzag, oi, oi, oi. Welcome aboard the Gallant Says podcast live on YouTube, Twitch, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and on X. I am Paul Gallant. DeMeco Ryans, the Houston Texans head coach, has got to be riding high after the Texans' 20-10 win over the Chiefs in Arrowhead. No matter what you think of the Chiefs, for them to go in there and do what they did, defensively especially, that's a tall task. They completely shut down Travis Kelce. They didn't let any of those fast Chiefs receivers get in gear. And, of course, they gave Patrick Mahomes the worst game of his career, to the point where serious conversations are being had on those Speak for Your Pizza shows about, if the Chiefs are done, how does Mahomes get back? But who cares about them, right? They're done. Texans killed him. DeMeco Ryans is obsessed with a word. He has been talking about this word a lot. The word is finish. Here is a compilation of every single time DeMeco Ryans has said finish in the last 24 to 48 hours.
Execute.
Here we go.
Execute and finish. Right? It was all about the finish. And I love the way every man in here stood up and finished. Way to finish there at the end, man. Way to finish when we needed it most. Way to finish.
Proud of our guys for the way, we finished the football game. And that's been a recurring thing for us over the past couple of weeks, just finishing the games. No matter how they look, they're in the middle, just finishing the right way. At the end of the game, we found a way to get some yards and finish it. That's been my motto for us, is like, how are we finishing? Like, no matter what happens, like, how are you finishing in the fourth quarter? And our guys finished. It's truly about us and about how we execute and how we finish. When you look at where we started and how we didn't finish games, how do you not finish games? Like, it's all about continuing to execute and finish.
We've all had this happen before. Maybe it was at a job where you've got a boss who keeps telling you the same thing over and over again. It's part of his core principles. You probably had a football coach who did something similar, or maybe a coach for another sport. Everyone has had someone in their life who will constantly say the same thing over and over again, reminding you that you need to do it. Hell, your parents definitely did it at some point in your life. DeMeco is obsessed with it. Finish. I got a question. What the hell does that mean? I know the obvious answer to that would be, Paul, Jesus, figure it out. Finishing it means at the end of the game, you're closing out the game strong. Okay, but how often do you have control over that, right? The Texans have control over that when they're playing on defense and if they have a lead. But how do you finish on a week-to-week basis? Sometimes it's on the offense to get it done. Sometimes it's on the special teams to get it done. How do you do that? One of these units is capable of doing it every single week. I implicitly trust this Texans team to finish a game. But when it comes to the offense, I'm not so sure. Some people were annoyed that on yesterday's show, I gave C.J. Stroud a D for his performance in Kansas City. A D gets a degree. I only got one D in my life. Ugh. Can't believe I got it. It was a comm law, my second to last semester at school. But D's do get degrees. I thought I wasn't going to be able to pass. They get degrees, though. It doesn't mean it's a disaster. It just means it's not satisfactory. And I think that no matter what highlight plays CJ Stroud had Sunday night in Kansas City, he left a lot to be desired. I mean, there was a stretch in the second half where Stroud couldn't complete a pass. I mean, 5 3-and-outs. I know everyone loves making excuses for Stroud. We want to see him succeed. It's the offensive line's fault. It's Nick Caley's fault. And sure, those guys had a role in that, but CJ Stroud did not finish yesterday's game, Sunday's game. He didn't finish it. How good have the Texans been at finishing games offensively? I went and I checked for how did the Texans finish the first half? Because obviously that was a bit of an issue Sunday night. How do they finish the second half? And what generally goes down when the Texans are on offense in the second half? Last drive of the first half for the Texans with CJ Stroud under center. So we're talking 9 games. They're averaging 5.2 plays per drive for 25 yards. Unless they're in good field position, that generally means a punt. They've had the ball at the end of the half twice to mixed results. Sometimes you're wondering, what's going on? And I would specifically point to the last 2 games, the Colts, the Chiefs. They've had 3 punts, 2 field goals, an interception. It's been a pretty sloppy operation at the end of the first half when they've had the ball last. Sometimes they haven't had enough time. Other times, though, you've been wondering, okay, what the hell was the plan here? In the second half, how have they done at the end of the game? Their last drive of the game. They're averaging 6.22 plays per drive for 31 yards. Some of those drives, they have closed out the game. 3 times they've run out the clock. They've scored 2 touchdowns. One of them, they had a go-ahead touchdown against the Buccaneers late. That's one game where the Texans offense finished. The Buccaneers offense made the Texans defense not finish. 1 field goal, 1 punt, 1 interception. That was against the Jaguars. 1 fumble. That was against the Los Angeles Rams. How did the Texans finish offensively in the second half? Here's the result of all of their drives in the second half with CJ Stroud healthy. 13 touchdowns, 8 field goals, 1 missed field goal. Okay, would like some more touchdowns for sure. Beggars can't be choosers. That's 22 drives that could have resulted in a score. 10 punts, 10 3-and-out punts, 5 turnovers on downs, 4 interceptions, 2 fumbles, and the game ended twice. They were able to run out the clock. So they're not great at closing out games. They're not great at finishing the opposition. Can it get better in these last 4 games? From a confidence perspective, sure. Look who the Texans are playing in the next 4. Cardinals, Raiders, a Chargers team that looks pretty scrappy despite all the injuries they're trying to overcome, and then a Colts team that is legitimately trying out Daniel Jones. That's a real thing. They're trying out Daniel Jones, my bad. They're trying out Phillip Rivers tomorrow. Or today. I guess it's today. Anyway, you get what I'm saying here. Can a team that doesn't finish games out offensively finish the job and win the AFC South? Let's take a look at the schedules for these 2 teams. 3 teams, I guess. I'm really looking at the Indianapolis Colts at this moment in time as if they're dead. The Colts have a brutal schedule to wrap up the year. I can understand why they'd throw a bleep at a wall. I wonder if Anthony Richardson is closer to being back from the orbital fracture that he had, but after 4 losses in 5 games, the Colts head to Seattle Sunday to take on the Seahawks. They have a home game against the 49ers Monday Night Football. They play the Jacksonville Jaguars, who just kicked their ass 36-19 in Indy. They wrap up the year at NRG Stadium. I think the Colts aren't finishing anything. They are finished. But how about the Jaguars schedule? And the Jaguars are a tough team to figure out. Yes. They had an epic collapse, up 19 points against a Davis Mills-led Texan squad. But they also beat the Texans earlier this year in what was an ugly-ass game that the Texans had every opportunity to win. I don't know that we can be super disrespectful to the Jaguars as much as we want to right now when they've won 5 of 6. Sure, those wins were against the Raiders, the Cardinals, Titans, and Daniel Jones-less Colts team. But they did have a very impressive win over a Chargers team that I was impressed by last night. 35-6. That's their signature win. They beat Kansas City. They beat the 49ers. They wrap up the year, the Jaguars, against the Jets, on the road against the Broncos, on the road against the Colts, and at home against the Titans. Texans need the Broncos to win that game. They need to win out to win the AFC South. I do not think the Jets, the Colts, the Titans will help out. If you take a look at the Texans' record, is there a chance that the Texans, who split the season series with the Jaguars, would they have the tiebreaker? Well, if the Texans went out, yeah, they would. If the Texans are 12-5 and the Jaguars are 12-5, having lost to the Broncos, the Jaguars would have 3 conference losses, which is the second tiebreaker, while the Texans would have just 2. So that's what they need to happen the rest of the way to finish the AFC South. As far as clinching a playoff spot, Texans would be in the playoffs if the season ended today. They're in great shape. They have a 2-game lead on 2 teams that they've beaten already this year and have the head-to-head tiebreaker against. So they basically have a 3-game lead with 4 games to play against the Ravens and the Chiefs. The Miami Dolphins are playing better of late, but I think if you look at the Dolphins' schedule right now and who they've taken care of to get back in the swing of things, much like the Jaguars, they've won 5 of their last 6, but it's against the Falcons. The Bills win was impressive. The Commanders, Saints, and Jets. They lost to the Ravens convincingly. The rest of the way, the Dolphins have the Steelers, Bengals, with Joe Burrow, who maybe can't stop anybody, but look better. A Bucs team that's looking a little fraudulent, and a road game against the New England Patriots. If the Patriots have nothing to play for in that last game of the year, okay, maybe the Dolphins have a shot, but it's going to be cold. And if the Patriots are playing for home field, which it looks like they might, given the Broncos have that 11-2 record, I don't see the Dolphins coming back. So those 3 teams, they're not catching the Texans. The Colts, no Daniel Jones. It's over. The other teams that I guess you keep an eye on in the wild card race to see if the Texans can move up from the 7 seed to the 5 seed, say they don't win the AFC South, are the LA Chargers, who play the Chiefs, Cowboys, Texans, and Broncos the rest of the way. That's going to be really tough. Justin Herbert's a tough son of a bitch, playing with that broken non-throwing hand. I guess his elbow started bleeding during the game as well. He got sacked, 7 times? Good God. The Eagles were beating the hell out of him. And that last drive for the Chargers, Justin Herbert was running. I was impressed by Justin Herbert in that game, even if I'm not necessarily impressed by Justin Herbert, his resume. I think he's a tough guy. And I don't think it was necessarily his fault that shit hit the fan in Texans Chargers last year. I think that was the Texans defense just swarming all over him like they have swarmed over so many quarterbacks over the last couple of years. But it's going to be tough for the Chargers to make the playoffs. Big win over the Eagles last night, but the Eagles are definitely a messy team. And then you got the Bills. Bills play the Patriots on Sunday at the Browns, Eagles, and Jets. So there's a chance that the Bills could lose one more game, which means the Texans would have the tiebreaker over them because of the head-to-head head-to-head. And since the Texans play the Chargers, they also control their own destiny on that front. So, at the very least, the Texans should be a 5 seed by the end of the year, if not the AFC South champs. But it's really all about what happens in Jaguars-Broncos. But can they finish the job? Whenever I think of finish, and you heard that D'Amico Ryans clip of every single time that he says finish, I mean, there's only one thing that you think of, right?
Finish him. Flawless victory.
You're thinking about Mortal Kombat, baby.
Finish him.
Maybe you're thinking about this side of Mortal Kombat.
Fatality.
Oh, yeah, it's a violent game. The voice guy for Mortal Kombat, he's awesome, huh? Yeah, maybe that'll be the laugh track for the show going forward. But the Texans have yet to have one of these this season. D'Amico Ryan's looking for a team to finish.
Flawless victory.
I guess you could say the Ravens game was a flawless victory, but Cooper Rush was playing. It was Cooper Rush, you know? I don't know what the fuck this was from in Mortal Kombat, but you would hear it every now and then. It was a sound effect if you played the game. It corresponded to something. If you can figure it out, let me know. Toasty! They're saying toasty. I used to think he was saying whoopsie. Toasty! But he's saying toasty. Toasty! I'm guessing that means that you're heating up. Because Mortal Kombat was owned by Acclaim, right? And doesn't Acclaim own the video game franchise? Didn't they own NBA Showtime and NBA Jam? I don't know. More Mortal Kombat voice guy.
Impressive.
Yeah, that was what the Texans did on Sunday night. It was impressive. Was it this?
Outstanding.
It was very good. I would say it was more this.
Well done.
But I wouldn't go so far as to say this.
Excellent.
And look, as far as the Texans' schedule this season, iron sharpens iron. They certainly have done this.
Test your might.
So there you go. I just used Mortal Kombat to make a Houston Texans segment on the Gallant Says podcast. Let's take a look at some comments. YouTube, at Paul Gallant. Twitch, at Gallant Says. Plank 1246, fuck off. Fuck your stream. H-Town Hard Hitter says, the Texans win as long as they don't turn the ball over one time. Yeah, that's where I'm at with this offense. H-Town Hard Hitter says, Bill Simmons said the Chiefs defense was the best unit on the field on Sunday, by the way. Yeah, Bill Simmons doesn't know football. I saw Awful Announcing was glazing him for a preseason post where he predicted a Patrick Mahomes fall off, which sure might have been what he actually believed, but it also might be what a lot of us Patriots fans do, where we're looking to discredit Mahomes whenever we can. You know? It's just a thing we do. It's just a thing we do. What other comments do we have here? For whatever reason, Restream opens up the last chat all the time. H-Town Hard Hitter says, Disney would make a movie if Phillip Rivers leads the Colts to the playoffs over the Texans. H-Town Hard Hitter says, Google needs to hire Paul for figuring out how to incorporate YouTube comments on Twitch. I agree with that. H-Town Hard Hitter says that the whoopsies was an inside joke among the developers. Okay, we're going to change over to the regular tech because I was like, wait, is the only person who's commented on this H-Town Hard Hitter? You can comment on TikTok as well. Please follow along. TikTok not doing so hot today. I'm not a fan of that, guys. Step your game up. Brian Herrera, 1390, says the Texans have always had the ability to finish every week respectfully. Have they? That's a fair point. How many one-score games did they lose? Maybe the Seahawks game, it was a stretch because they had to get an onside kick at the very end, and they chose to kick it off, and the ball didn't go out of the back of the end zone, and the Seahawks were able to run out the clock. But yeah, go back and look at the Texans' schedule. They have had a chance to finish every single game. The problem is, generally, the offense hasn't done it. Last drive of the game against the Rams, they fumble. Buccaneers, this is the game that everyone got mad at me for criticizing the defense, but against the Bucs, they had to stop Baker Mayfield and the Bucs at the end, and they didn't. Defense lost them the game against the Bucs. At the end against the Jaguars, Stroud throws an interception. The possession before, Nico Collins has the fumble. Against the Seahawks, weren't able to do it. Against the Broncos, yeah, they had a chance, but it was Davis Mills. God, what a weird game. I really want to see a Texans-Broncos game again. Although, it would be probably a difficult watch. Brian Herrera says the offense getting those final plays to seal the game would be a finish. Yeah, I think so. Let's play it one more time.
Finish him!
Same against the Colts when you need it. This matters, Paul. They're making plays when it counts. Name a moment when they needed to play and didn't do it. Well, I would say those games that I just listed where they lost. You know? They have finished sometimes. Have they finished often? Phoenix Lane says the Chargers one is the one I see as legitimate, but I do have questions about the Chargers. Yeah, you should, man. You absolutely should. Brian Herrera, 1390 says, drives me crazy. You want to give slack to the Jaguars, but not the team you cover. Jaguars have an easy schedule. Ours is brutal. When did I say the Texans schedule wasn't brutal? What are you talking about? Phoenix Lane says, I don't see the Jaguars beating the Broncos. I don't know what's going to happen, bro. I don't know. Phoenix Lane says the Chargers' offensive line is shaky after all those injuries. The Ravens look bad even with Lamar Jackson. Indeed, they do. Watch it along on YouTube at Paul Gallant. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. Twitch at Gallant says. Give me a follow if you haven't given me a sub. Instagram at Sports Gallant. TikTok at Gallant says. X at Gallant says pod. H-Town Hard Hitter brings up a good point. Trevor Lawrence is looking better. So while we're talking about finishing and fatalities, how about this?
Fatality.
Daniel Jones is out for the year. He tore his Achilles. I'm sorry if that's crass. I feel bad for Daniel Jones. He plays on a broken leg. The injury happens to his non-broken leg. So now the Indianapolis Colts are bringing in Phillip Rivers. I don't even know if that gives Colts fans a shot in the arm. It changes nothing. They're done. I think they're going to lose every game the rest of the way. I think there's a very good chance they finish 8-9. Which, considering they started 7-1, is impressive. But their offense has been figured out. If they can't run the football, they can't really do anything. And now Riley Leonard's going to be in there. I heard some jokes about, hey, maybe you run the wing T, the triple option, to make things work for him. Meanwhile, you've got the Jaguars, and, I mean, they're just a tough team to figure out. Their defense is a lot better. Also, to H-Town Hard Hitter's points, is Trevor Lawrence figuring it out in this Liam Cohen offense? Or is he taking advantage of games against schlubs? Raiders, Chargers, they beat. That's their most impressive win. Cardinals, Titans, Colts. It's hard to be impressed by Trevor Lawrence if you're a Texans fan. I think you do have to give a little bit of credit to the Texans defense. Sorry, I had to blow a snot rag right there. You got to give credit to the Texans defense for making him look as mortal as they've made him look in the games that he's gone up against them. But let's take a look at the numbers at the very least for Trevor Lawrence over the last couple of weeks. Lawrence, on the season, tied for 13th in passing yards, but passing yards do not matter. Anyone who brings up passing yards as a reason to say, hey, my quarterback's doing well, you better show me the yards per attempt too. 2,880 yards passing, which is 13th. 18th in touchdowns, it's 16th. 11th in interceptions, that's pretty high. 47.1 QBR, which is 22nd. I mean, considering he was the first overall pick in 2021, he has been disappointing relative to the expectations. In his last 3 games, check that. His last 2 games against the Colts, he was 17 of 30 for 244 yards and 2 touchdowns. Against the Titans, he was 16 of 27 for 229 yards and 2 touchdowns. He did throw 3 interceptions in that overtime win over the Cardinals where things got way, way too close. He threw for less than 200 yards against the Chargers, which isn't a great sign for him, but Chargers game, they ran all over them. Against the Texans, 13 of 23, 158 yards, and an interception. Against the Raiders, which went to overtime, he hasn't been impressive from the statistics side of things. He hasn't. And what the Jaguars have been doing the last couple of weeks is running the football really well. It's about Travis Etienne. It's about Bashal Tootin, right? Their rookie running back. Etienne on the season, 201 carries for 917 yards and 7 touchdowns. He's averaging 4.6 yards a carry. The last couple of games, not that impressive. It's tricky to figure them out offensively. So I'm going to give most of the credit for the Jaguars and the success that they've had this season and over the last 6 games to their defense. Anyway, no matter how you feel about the Jaguars, I think it's probably unanimous across the football cognoscenti. People don't really take him seriously. Here is Jaguars head coach Liam Cohen talking about that in a back and forth with Jaguars media after their win over the Colts on Sunday.
When you have a team that feeds on disrespect, how does that continue to go when maybe the respect starts to come, which might be where you are right now? I don't know if we'll
ever really get it. So that's the beauty of it. It ain't coming. You know that. It's not. So, and that's the beauty of it. And that's totally fine. And, it's one of those things that I think the group right now, Houston was good for us. I do believe that. The end of Houston was good for us. And to know that each game is going to be a 60-minute football game, and our mindset and mentality has to be that way. And when you get into December and you're going to go play some really difficult games on the schedule coming up, and everyone counts. Trevor just said it. Everyone is exactly the same right now moving forward for us. And I'm very proud of these guys getting the 9 wins, but a lot of work to be done.
Houston was good for us. That's an interesting line coming out of Liam Cohen. Look, they've played better since then to a degree, but I don't think anything that they've done offensively in particular is worthy of writing home about. I mean, blew a 19-point lead to a backup quarterback, but they are 9-4. As far as respect, this is what Josh Hines-Allen, the Jaguars' probably best pass rusher. I don't think Travon Walker's better. We'll take a look at the numbers in a moment. He also thinks that the Jaguars are unlikely to get the respect that they want.
The league-wise, I think, to them, we're still the Jags, and they're just waiting for us to slip up. But, for us, if we continue to trust our process, trust our grind, and we're going to continue to keep peaking. And, all the people that are going to say that, we're not a good team, we'll see them in the Super Bowl.
We'll see him in the Super Bowl. Okay, I mean, the defense is going to have to get him there, and their defense is not the Texans' defense. Is it better? Sure. But is it the Texans' defense? No, definitely not. Josh Hines-Allen stats, 2025. How we doing? Josh Hines-Allen has 7 sacks on the season. No forced fumbles. 7 stuffs as well. Man, is there anyone on the Jaguars who has impressive statistics outside of Travis Etienne? And obviously, Travis Hunter's out for the season. That's been a disappointment. You take a look at, for all the bitching and moaning about Nick Caserio this offseason, I mean, the Jaguars traded a shit ton for Travis Hunter. And how much did they really get from him? Can they actually play him at 2 positions to merit trading all those draft picks to move up a couple of picks to go get him? And then, I mean, the Colts, as pointed out a little bit earlier by Brian Herrera, the Colts really went all in on Daniel Jones, who's now recovering from a torn Achilles and is also a free agent. Devin Lloyd's awesome. Their linebacker. He's really good. He had another interception, I think, against the Colts on Sunday. He's giving TEMU Fred Warner vibes. What else? I'm looking for something impressive statistically. Yeah, Travon Walker only has 2.5 sacks. That's a guy who was the first overall pick over Aiden Hutchinson a couple of years ago. Eric Armstead's a big guy. Remember the Texans tried to get him a little bit ago? Huh. Interesting. Anyway, more Jaguars seemingly peeved about the lack of respect. Travis Etienne does not think the Jaguars are about to get that respect anytime soon. Here he is talking about the motivation for the Jaguars every single week.
At the end of the day, I feel like no one likes us except for us, and I feel like it just goes along with just being in this organization, with our organization has been for quite some time now. So we're not going to get the respect. We kind of don't even care. As long as we know what we got inside the locker room and we can go out there and take it, there's no better feeling than just being disrespected and having an extra chip on your shoulder, playing with an extra edge. So it just gives us extra motivation going each and every Sunday.
No better feeling. There's a lot of better feelings. There's a lot of better feelings than being disrespected. You know what I like better than being disrespected? Having sex, for one. There's no better feeling. If it motivates you, great. And it can. Disrespect can motivate you. I think everybody watching right now, listening right now, you've probably gone through that at some point in your life where you felt disrespected. I think back to when I was in high school and I was absolutely awful during our spring practices before my senior year, to the point where I was wondering, am I going to get benched? I was awful. I was wearing these cleats that didn't fit. This was before I knew that I had plantar fasciitis as a small boy. I have these super arched feet, and I was wearing these temporary cleats that cost like $20 because my feet kept on growing. Yeah, I have for a barely 6 foot tall person. The girlfriend measured me. That's what she tells me. I have long ass toes, and I think I'm wearing size 11s. So anyway, this whole preseason, spring practice, I'm wearing these cleats and I'm just slow and my ankles hurt and it's tough to walk. So I decided in the spring game, I'm just going to go back and wear my old cleats. Fuck it. Let's see what happens. Then I played maybe the best game I played as a safety. I was playing probably not the smartest safety. I was cheating a lot and just not playing my zone and coming up in run support. But the disrespect motivated me. Because I remember there were a couple of people talking about how I wasn't going to be the starter the next season. I was like, fuck that. No, it's going to be me. But based off of practice, it really wasn't the case. And based off of what you've seen for the Jaguars, are they really worthy of respect because they beat a couple of teams like this? I'm not so sold on that. Liam Cohen's also, much like D'Amico's, talking about finishing games. If you missed that clip earlier, go back to earlier in the show. I just put a montage together of every single time D'Amico has talked about finishing games. I guess Liam Cohen, Mr. Duval, has been using this saying to motivate the Jags.
Just some things throughout the facility. Just like I remember just this week going to the facility, just seeing pictures on the TVs, just where we are now, the vision, just how everyone just keeps talking about everyone else besides us. And I feel like subconsciously you kind of might not think about it, but that stays in the back of your mind, especially going into the game. And then just his speeches Saturday night before the game, he just, Coach said smoke is smoke, so I just love that he has that mentality and it just trickled down to us.
I have no idea what he's talking about. I was trying to figure out if he explained smoke is smoke, and I hope somebody asks Liam Cohen about smoke is smoke. Because I don't know what that means. I do not know what that means. Gallant Says Podcast live on YouTube at Paul Gallant, on Twitch at Gallant Says, Facebook at Paul Gallant Sports, Instagram at Sports Gallant, X at Gallant Says Pod, TikTok. I think I said that already. Whatever, guys. Like and subscribe if you're watching along right now. Let's take a look at everything that went down in the NFL over the weekend and yesterday. Last night, Chargers 22, Eagles 19. Come away from that game impressed with the Chargers. You should. I do. They looked really tough. Now, I think they've got a lot of things that they're going to have to figure out offensively. Is Justin Herbert going to make it to the end of the year? he's looking like Frankenstein out there. And he got hit so often, not just because of getting sacked 7 times, but he scrambled a lot in last night's game too. I mean, he had 2 of the key plays at the end of the game, setting the Chargers up for the game-tying field goal for Cameron Dicker at the end of regulation and then in overtime. And it's not like he had an impressive game as a quarterback, but considering he got sacked 7 times, he ran the ball 10 times for 66 yards in this game. But that Eagles defense, which is a really good defense, gave the Chargers fits as they try to figure out what the hell they're doing on the offensive line. And if I'm not mistaken, another offensive lineman got hurt. But I'm impressed by the Chargers hanging in there against the Eagles. I'm impressed also by Cameron Dicker. God, that guy's money. Friend of the program, Cameron Dicker. Friend of my fantasy football league. Hung out with Cameron Dicker when he was with the Rams a couple of years ago in Los Angeles at a Dodgers game. Very personable guy. I'm very happy for the success that he's having. Statistically, as far as field goal percentage, he's one of the best ever. 5 for 5 last night, and he hit his extra point too. Money kicker. I think there's a case to be made that he's the best kicker in the league. Jalen Hurts, meanwhile, Channelview's own. Rough performance. 4 interceptions, and on one of those interceptions, he recovered a fumble, and then he fumbled it. I mean, this is the worst performance of Jalen Hurts' career. It went to overtime despite 4 interceptions. A.J. Brown looked good. Saquon Barkley finally had a big game, but they couldn't score touchdowns, and they're looking rather fraudulent. Philly's now 8-5 as they try to defend last year's Super Bowl title. And by the way, if you tell them, hey, man, hey, you're defending this Super Bowl championship, they get pissy. And they're like, yeah, no, we're not actually doing it. They have some different way of talking about trying to defend a title. I think they're saying we're attacking a title. I don't know, man. You're barely hanging on. Looks like a city under siege right now, starting to run out of food and eating cats and dogs and stuff. That was a bad performance. Rest of the way for the Eagles. Are they in trouble as far as their playoff standings go? The rest of the way, the Philadelphia Eagles, who are the 3 seed in the NFC if the playoffs were to begin today. The rest of the way, with the Cowboys in second place at 6-6-1, yeah, they're fine. They're fine. What is the Eagles' remaining schedule? I'm sure they've got a couple of shit teams in there. Oh, yeah, they play the Commanders twice, the Raiders. The Bills game will be interesting the second to last week of the year. So we'll see what goes down for the Eagles the rest of the way. I guess I heard this on Pardon My Take. The Eagles have a bunny. They have a positivity rabbit. Oh, boy. Let's take a look at this. This is in the locker room, and oh man, this is not going to age well. Ashlyn Sullivan, a Eagles reporter for NBC Sports Philly and WIP, go Gators, posted a picture of a inflatable rabbit. The Eagles have installed the positivity rabbit in the locker room. It showed up today, and the offensive line stressed to me they are not sad. They just wanted a good vibes bunny. Oh, boy. Yeah, when you lose, this is going to get clowned. This isn't quite Letterman jackets, but it's trending in that direction. What else do we got to talk about on today's Gallant Says podcast around the National Football League? Bills 39, Bengals 34. Josh Allen looked like the MVP. I don't know if he's going to win the MVP again, but even if he doesn't have the best resume, wouldn't you take Josh Allen over every other quarterback in the league? Even I would. I'm a Patriots fan. I love Drake May. Even I would take Josh Allen over him right now. That was a hell of a performance against Cincinnati. And I mean, in the snow, it just helps him out so much. It's tough to get your footing when you're a defender and you got some behemoth, 6'5", 6'6" quarterback who's running full speed at you. How are you going to tackle that guy? How are you going to set your feet to stop him from pushing you back 3, 4, 5 yards? Would be nice if Josh Allen flopped a little bit less, but he was awesome. And if you didn't watch Bills Bengals, if you didn't flip over from Jaguars Colts as soon as Daniel Jones got hurt, you missed out. I watched that game entirely. Did not have on Red Zone to watch another game. That was a beautiful, beautiful watch. And it's a shame for the Bengals that defensively they just got no one to stop anybody. But for what it's worth, it was back-to-back interceptions by Bills defenders that won Buffalo that game. Maybe the most impressive play you're going to see from a defensive lineman all season or a linebacker all season. I'm forgetting the guy's name. It's eluding me right now. What was his name? Let's see. Scrolling through. Christian Benford, who I guess has a touchdown defensively in his last 2 weeks. That was a hell of a play, man. Can't show the highlight. And then the very next play, there was a deflected pass that was intercepted by the Bills again. But Josh Allen, I think, looked like the MVP. Phoenix Lane says Stafford would be my MVP choice. H-Town Hardhitter says May lacks the signature moments to win MVP. Well, I would say against the Bills, he looked pretty damn good, but you're probably right. Now it's a Sunday night football game. Stafford is up there for sure, but I think this is the best Rams team that Sean McVay's ever had. I was listening to this on Ryan Russillo's podcast. Mike Sando was on. I mean, they've been better defensively this season. And have they ever missed a beat since Aaron Donald left? So I think that the Rams have a little bit more around Stafford, which is not to say Stafford doesn't deserve MVP consideration. But Stafford, I think, has cooled down a little bit statistically. Let me take a look at his last couple of games. Because I'll be honest, I'm not watching NFC West football. Pretty impressive performance against the Cardinals. I think I'm thinking a little bit too much about his performance against the Panthers, where he did have a couple of interceptions. I think one was returned for a touchdown. 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions against Carolina. But for the most part this season, he's been money. So definitely has a strong case. 35-4 touchdown interception ratio. Jesus. That is what you point at if you're a Stafford fan to say, hey, he's going to win the MVP. He should win the MVP. So I think Allen, from an eye test perspective, is the MVP, but it does seem like Stafford will win it, assuming the Rams win the NFC West. Rams are 10-3 after taking care of business against the Cardinals, 45-17. Seahawks beat the Falcons, 37-9. Both those teams have 10 wins. They're both in their montage mode. You know, this is the montage for Rocky and Apollo Creed in Rocky 2 before the actual fight. And whoever wins that game is going to win the West, I would imagine. Let's take a look at both of their schedules. Paul, you don't know their schedules off the top of your head? No, I'm not a nerd. Come on now. Let's see. From a Rams perspective and from a Seahawks perspective, what do the Seahawks have the rest of the way? Seahawks play the Colts. That game got a lot easier. Rams at the Panthers. I don't know what the fuck the Panthers are. I think they were off this week. And at the 49ers to end the year. The 49ers are frisky, but I don't know if I take them seriously. Rams, meanwhile, they play the Lions on Sunday, Then that Seahawks game is on Thursday night afterwards, and they wrap up the year with the Falcons and the Cardinals. Seahawks have a slightly tougher schedule. The Falcons and Cardinals games are huge for the Rams, where the Seahawks have, yes, the Colts, but the 49ers and the Panthers, both of whom have a pulse. So if the Rams win the division, and it certainly looks like they have a better chance to because their schedule is more favorable, Matt Stafford's going to have a very strong case for MVP. I don't know how Drake May gets it outside of having statistically a couple of huge performances down the stretch for New England, but looking at the Patriots' schedule before they close things up, it really has to happen for Drake May against the Bills on Sunday because it's at the Ravens and a Lamar Jackson, not so good Lamar Jackson this season, at the Jets and against a Dolphins team that's playing well, but I think they're bullshit. Frauds. Are these teams frauds? Packers beat the Bears 28-21. The Bears are at least respect-worthy now, I think. Green Bay's 9-3-1. The Bears are 9-4. It seemed like the Bears showed up late for this game. And Caleb Williams is playing better, but I think like Trevor Lawrence, for all the hype that the guy had coming out of college, I don't think he's ever going to live up to it. But they are definitely a tougher team with Ben Johnson in control, and it seems like there's a little chippiness between Matt LaFleur and Ben Johnson. So that's nice. The Steelers beat the Ravens 27-22. Mike Tomlin and Aaron Rodgers left the game being super cocky about being 7-6. The Steelers are bullshit and the Ravens are bullshit. I'm really wondering what John Harbaugh, who's been around forever, does well. Also, I'd ask the same question of the Steelers. Like Tomlin and Harbaugh, they've been around for a while. And sure, their teams have always been respectable, but I wish that we could ban the AFC North from the playoffs. Who would have thought that we'd ever say something like that? A season with Joe Burrow missing for much of it puts a big asterisk next to it. I guess there was a bad call in this game. I'm gonna have to look this up. I can't show the actual highlight because I'll get copyright struck. Bad call, Steelers and Ravens. Let's see. Oh, there was a catch. So Isaiah Likely catches a pass, 1 foot down, 2 feet down, step forward, ball knocked out. 1, 2, 3. You know, I see a lot of people saying this is a catch. But I'm going to Zach here. I don't think this is a catch. I don't think it's a catch. He took 2 steps, and had the Steeler player separated the ball from Likely's hands, I think I would say it is. But the ball came out of his hands. Why? I get how this would be controversial. It's the end of a game. But the more and more I watch it, 1 step, 2 step, ball out without the Steeler player touching him or the football at all. 1, 2, almost 3. Right before his foot hits the ground, the ball pops out. Yeah, I'm probably in the minority there. I don't think that's a touchdown. Like, if the Steeler player had pulled it out, I would be a little bit more open to the idea that that's a touchdown, but I don't see it. Maybe I'm in the minority here. I'm not trying to be different. This is the first time I've watched it. Huh. Anyway, both those teams don't matter. So there you go. Broncos 24, Raiders 17. People are mad about something Pete Carroll did. What are people mad at Pete Carroll for? I guess Dave Portnoy called for Pete Carroll to be killed or something like that. People are mad, thinking that he was serious. I'm going to blow another snot rag, excuse me. Let's see. Maybe we're going to have to ask Grok. What the fuck are people mad about? H-Town Hard Hitter, by the way, on that call while we ask AI why people are mad at Pete Carroll. H-Town Hard Hitter says he made a football move, Paul. It would have been a catch and a fumble anywhere but in the end zone. Yeah, I guess, but I don't think it should have been. My TikTok got TikTok is so stupid. TikTok got restricted because I'm playing clips of audio. All right. Yeah, Grok was unable to reply. What are people mad at Pete Carroll for? Yeah, fuck it. Who cares, you know? Broncos barely won that game, though. The Saints beat the Bucks 24-20. Bucks are frauds. Who dat? Shout out to all the Saints fans out there. People are happy with Tyler Shuck. Statistically, didn't look impressive. Baker Mayfield, it seems like, can't throw the football deep anymore. You were a sicko if you watch these games. Dolphins 34, Jets 10. The Dolphins are playing better, but that schedule's been bullshit, as we laid out a little bit earlier. The Jets are a god-awful abomination and should be banned from sports. It's very funny. Every now and then I'll go on X and I'll see my old colleague from ESPN Houston, Jake Asman, posting, Jets fan explodes over latest Jets loss. And it's like, how do you have the energy to be this angry every single week at this bad, god-awful team? I think Greg Todd said they kicked a late field goal to lose by 7. Oh. All right. As far as why the people are mad at Pete Carroll. Should have watched a lot of this stuff, but the Sunday Night Football and the watch party that we did, I probably missed the majority of the late afternoon window because I was trying to figure out how to set things up. Oh, it's about the spread. Oh, okay. Well, the gambling dorks. I just don't get the gambling stuff. I don't. I know I should. I know I should lean into it, but yeah. I don't get it. I think people are way too worked up about that shit. Vikings 31, Commanders nothing. I think Jaden Daniels might have played a little bit in this game, which is definitely concerning. I mean, why? You almost want Daniel Snyder to come back in. Yeah, he did. Oh, God, 9 of 20. 78 yards and interception, and I think he got sacked and didn't look great. Yeah, what the fuck are you guys doing? Just shelve him for the year. The season is over. It is over. What a disappointment they were. I thought there was a chance they'd be disappointing, but I didn't think they'd be this. I figured they'd be maybe a little more Bengals adjacent. 3-10. Woof. Greg Todd says we'll be live betting on the stream Sunday. I am not streaming on Sunday. This is going to be, at least from what I understand, I'm going to be credentialed finally for a game at NRG Stadium. I'm going to have to cross the T's, dot the I's on that, but I will be at NRG Stadium, I believe, on Sunday for the first time this year. So that'll be fun. Phoenix Lane says if that controversial catch for the Ravens was a catch and fumble, then the drop Rashee Rice had when Jalen Petrie hit him should have been a catch and fumble. Yeah, like I think it's just an incomplete pass. So there you go, guys. What else do we have? I think we have one last thing. One last thing to get to. Okay, just one. I know far too much about Minnesota after last week doing the radio in Kansas City. I know far too much about what's going on in Minnesota. For those who don't know, there is a massive fraud scandal where Minnesotans from Somalia, some of them perhaps citizens, others immigrants trying to become citizens, stole over $1 billion through fraud from Minnesota's government. Last week, while doing radio in Kansas City, I spent a lot of time just talking about it and about the way that Minnesotan politicians were defending themselves. You would think, hey, a little accountability would go a long way. Fuck, how did this happen? We're going to fix it as best we can. Instead, because of the way that President Trump speaks, which at times is, let's be frank, dickish and unnecessary, it creates more adversaries than it solves problems. Some of his base, I'm sure, love it. But does he need to say people are garbage to give the Democrats a layup to push back against what he says and to do what they normally do, which is to call him a white supremacist or a racist? He didn't need to do that. He didn't. But he did. So now the left is doing what it normally does. When they're backed into a corner, you call out racism and you point at Nazis. Here is Ilhan Omar, a House of Representative member from the state of Minnesota, comparing Stephen Miller, who is Jewish, to the usual suspects that the Dems
Starting
do.
this morning with Squad Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, who is now exchanging rhetorical fire, which is focused. But then the reminds me of his Face the Nation Sunday.
When I think about Stephen Miller and his white supremacist rhetoric, it reminds me of the way the Nazis described Jewish people.
Pause for a moment. Let's go back. Stephen Miller had posted on social media, "This is the great lie of mass migration. You are not just importing individuals, you are importing societies. No magic transformation occurs when failed states cross borders. At scale, migrants and their descendants recreate the conditions and terrors of their broken homelands." Okay. Not a one-size-fits-all description in my book. But I want to focus on the major issue here. Instead of redirecting to racism and white supremacy and Nazis, how about the people that are in Minnesota? The governor, Tim Walz, the mayor of Minneapolis, Jacob Frey, Ilhan Omar, some of these other people. How about instead of talking about how important it is to be a Somalian, how proud they are of their Somalian American roots, having police officers actually speaking in Somalian as part of a television announcement about an investigation into anything. How about you try to assimilate? Is that so hard to Somaliate, huh? Is that so hard? Because you got Tim Walz, you got Ilhan Omar, and you got these other Minnesota dipshits, and they're making an entire community of American people who are trying to be Americans and are just living in America look like a bunch of assholes. There's a lot of broad brush painting. Oh, all Somalians are the same. Fuck that. Come on. Let's not do that. I don't like that rhetoric. We're seeing a lot of it. I'm sure to Stephen Miller's point, there are some who aren't assimilating. But I like to think that there are some people who realize how awesome it is compared to where they used to be. And they're thinking to themselves, yeah, I'm going to try to make it here. So when you have politicians that are pushing back against criticism that should be bipartisan for blowing over $1 billion in fraud and not doing anything about it when you found out about it because you didn't want to lose the Somalian vote. That shit is insane to me. I mean, at a certain point, you got to just say, I fucked up. I suppose that opens it up for lawsuits and stuff like that, but they should be sued. Someone should go to jail for this. No one will. No one ever does. But I feel bad for immigrants who have an unfair target on their back already, and you got people in politics, people in office, who instead of trying to assimilate, instead of trying to be American, they are talking about how they're Somalian first, or they're sending money from the United States back to Somalia. And for those who don't know, the way that you transfer money to the Middle East, I forget the specific word. I talked about it a lot last week, but it's one of those things where it's not regulated. You can't check where the money goes. It's based off of family relationships and clan relationships. I'm not talking about the KKK. I'm talking about relationships that clans in these generally Islamic countries have. And you can't trace it at all. So it's essentially their own version of what is the thing that you use to wire money in the United States? I should know this. I used to work at a grocery store in the customer service center. Western Union. It's a different version of Western Union, but there's no regulation on it. And when this money actually makes it over to Somalia, there's a Al-Qaeda affiliate that's generally skimming 10 to 15% off the top as part of these transfers. So you got people in Somalian politics who are sending money back to Somalia. Okay, sure, it's your money. I guess you can go do it. But when you're defrauding the state of Minnesota to get said money, and then you're sending it back, and then some of the money's being skimmed off the top and going to terrorist organizations potentially, not intentionally, I would imagine, but perhaps it is, this shit demands answers and crackdowns. Instead, what you're getting is defiance from Minnesota politicians who are still doing the exact thing that got them in this fucking mess to begin with, which is pandering. Oh, they're being racist. Oh, man, this is awful. They're being racist towards you. It's white supremacists. They're Nazis. This playbook has gotten fucking stale. Get something new for all of our sakes. Do you think I want things to go poorly? A lot of people on the right do. You shouldn't be that way. We should all be hoping for our country to do the best it possibly can. Regardless of who's in office, even if you're annoyed with this person, you want the country to be better because it affects all of us. But if you're in Minnesota and you got these fucking shitheads who are running the country, instead of saying, yeah, we got to fix this, they clearly haven't. This is a rampant problem that's just finally been exposed. They're pointing towards Trump again. It's lame. It makes me wish Trump would be a little bit more careful with his language so that they wouldn't have some easy ammunition to use. But, oh, man, what's going on in Minnesota is wild, y'all. Absolutely wild. So there you go. That's going to wrap up today's edition of the Gallant Says podcast, y'all. Appreciate you joining. On YouTube at Paul Gallant. On Twitch at Gallant Says. Facebook at Paul Gallant Sports. Instagram at Sports Gallant. There's a politics account too. At Politics Gallant. What else are we on? I think that's it. TikTok, I think I said it already. Whatever. I'm so bad at closing the show out, but I appreciate you guys joining. This will be available in podcast form. Gallant Says Podcast. Subscribe, rate, and review on Spotify. Subscribe, rate, and review on Apple Podcasts as well. Look for the Gallant Says Podcast, everybody. Until tomorrow at 7 a.m., I am merely Paul Gallant. So long, farewell, and have yourselves a wonderful